Good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Suwile Matigana, and today I'm joined by a panel of members to discuss, bone marrow transplants, and also the requirement for donations. I'll introduce the panel and also just allow them to introduce themselves as well. And I'll start with yourself, Andrew, if you could introduce yourself.
Hi, morning, everybody. So my name is Andrew Ross. I am a doctor. I work in the... Sorry, we muted. I am a doctor. I work in the Department of Family Medicine at the University of KwaZulu-Natal.
All right, thanks, Andrew. Megan?
Hi, I'm Megan Harrington Johnson. I am the mother of a bone marrow transplant survivor.
Fantastic. Thanks, Megan. Inga?
Hi, everyone. My name is Inga Macmillan. I was privileged to actually be a donor last year to a patient who was in need.
And we're also joined by Kim as well.
Thanks, Sivu. I work with Sivu in clinical risk in SRM.
Thanks, Kim. Fantastic. I think I'm going to start off this morning just, with a few facts. All right. So every single year, thousands of people are diagnosed with different blood cancers and blood disorders, and also immune disorders as well. And sometimes the only possible cure and also for their survival is a bone marrow transplant. And some members or individuals will have a compatible donor, and others will not have within their family, and thus will need a stranger to donate to them. And so that's why this is such a critical topic to discuss, and also just to raise awareness just around the stem cell registry and how you out there could play your part. Some other facts that you probably didn't know is that every 27 seconds, someone around the world is diagnosed with a blood cancer or blood disorder. In South Africa, which is also one of the shocking stats I learned not too long ago, is that only 0.04% of our population are registered as blood stem cell donors. And even deeper fact to this is that when it comes to ethnic representation, from Black, mixed race, Asian, and Indian populations, this is even smaller, which places these groups at a disproportionate chance of finding a matching donor. Now, there's only a 30% chance of finding a matching donor within your family, and 70% is really related to people that are unrelated to you. So, for a patient requiring a blood donor, largely is reliant on people outside of their family. Now, we've got two organizations in South Africa that work at supporting the stem cell registry, which is the first one being the South African Bone Marrow Registry, and also we have DKMS Africa. And in terms of people that can register to become blood stem cell donors, can be anything between the ages of 17 and 55, depending on the registry that an individual is signed up to. But I think that's enough facts, sharing for now. But I do want to get into a couple of questions and have a discussion with the panel just so we can hear their stories, and hopefully encourage someone out there to become a blood stem cell donor and help save a life by doing this courageous act. Andrew, I want to start with you and ask, can you tell us a bit about your story and how you learned of your diagnosis?
Right, morning. Thanks, everyone, and thanks for attending this webinar. So I have been giving blood on a regular basis, probably for the last 35 years. And in March, I went to give blood in a normal way, and they said to me my hemoglobin was a bit low. And so, well, that's a bit unusual. I feel well, I am well. And so then I had a full blood count, and the full blood count showed that not only was my hemoglobin a little bit low, but also my white cell counts was low, and my platelets were low. And so then I had a whole host of investigations, which included having a bone marrow biopsy. And at the end of June, the final diagnosis was that I had this condition called myelodysplastic syndrome. You can grade it into various levels, and mine was graded at high-risk myelodysplastic syndrome. So I read the medical literature, and you kind of hope you're sitting down when you read it, because it says the overall survival without treatment is 6 months to 15 months. Bit of a shock to the system, particularly when you are feeling well, and I was feeling well. And so, yeah, I was swabbed at the end of June. I had a buccal swab, and I went into the registry. My hemoglobin, my cell counts have been dropping since then. So my hemoglobin has dropped from 13.5 to 11.1. My white cell counts have dropped from 3.6 to 2.2. My platelets have dropped from 128 to 80 since my initial diagnosis. So without a stem cell transplant, the survival is poor, you know. And so I'm hoping to use my story to encourage people to sign up on the registry. It might help me. It would be fantastic if it does, but it might also broaden the pool of donors that can help others in South Africa. And when you look at it, the number of people who actually find a suitable donor is really low. Yeah, so thanks again. And if you can join and sign up, that would be absolutely amazing.
Thanks, Andrew, for sharing your story. I think it is something that's encouraging, and also just feel bravery for coming onto this panel, because as you mentioned, it's not just for you, but there are many other people in the world and even in the country that require a stem cell transplant, and really to assist in the curative cause of your diagnosis. And hopefully we can encourage a few people to sign up. I want to move on to you, Megan. And in this case, you weren't the patient, but your baby was. Can you tell us a bit about your journey, you know, when it comes to the diagnosis of baby Mackenzie?
Sure. So for those of you who haven't heard of my daughter, she's affectionately known as Mighty Mac. She developed quite a following while she was sick, and I think has encouraged quite a few people to sign up to the bone marrow registry, even though she was very sick at the time. But she was 4 months old when she was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia. She was perfectly well at the time. She had met all her milestones, been to all her ped visits, had all the regular checkups, and she just got a fever out of the blue, and I couldn't see anything really wrong with her. She was a bit niggly, and because I was a bit of a panicked first-time mom, I took her to the GP, and it was the 8th of May, Saturday the 8th of May, and he said, well, he can't really see anything wrong with her, but she does have this weird fever. Treat it with Calpol through the night and see how she is in the morning. If the fever's still there, take her back. And we went back on the Sunday morning. It was Sunday, the 9th of May, 2021. It was Mother's Day. She was 4 months old and 5 days. And he said, no, something's not sitting right with him. She's got this fever. He wants her to have a full blood count. Please go to the Santon clinic straight away and see the on-call ped. And he said, don't wait until Monday. I want you to go now. And, you know, your blood kind of goes cold at that point. And I remember saying to my husband in the car on the way there, you know, what if it's something terrible like cancer? And he said, don't be ridiculous. It's probably just a bacterial infection. And we got to the clinic and they did a full blood count. And in the morning, they kept us overnight. And in the morning, the ped came in and said, Mommy and Daddy, please sit down. I want to show you something on Mackenzie's blood results. And that's when we were told that she had leukemia, and they didn't know what type. We needed to have a bone marrow biopsy before we could hear what type it was. We were very quickly moved to Donald Gordon Medical Center, and she started chemo that Wednesday. She had an awful journey with her chemo and nearly died on a couple of occasions. She landed up at one point being ventilated for 2 months of her life. And whilst this was ongoing, you know, we were told that her type of cancer was so acute that she needed a bone marrow transplant, and she wasn't going to survive without a bone marrow transplant. But to get a bone marrow transplant, we first needed to get her into remission, and secondly, we needed to find a donor, because there was no donor on the database at that point in time, and neither my husband nor I were matches, and she didn't have a sibling. So a sibling sometimes is a match, but she did not have a sibling. So my sister and my sister-in-law started a massive campaign find a bone marrow donor for Mighty Mac, and they opened up an Instagram and a Facebook account, and I think thousands and thousands of people around the country followed her. And at one point, I think she had 45,000 followers on her Instagram page, and drives were being held around the country, and people signed up. And on the 25th of August, which was my birthday, we were told that we had found a match, and if she remained well, we could proceed with the transplant as soon as she was in remission. We obviously needed to prep her and the donor for transplant, but she eventually received her transplant in January 2022. And today she is sitting at 100% donor chimerism, and she's been in remission for 2 years.
Thanks, Megan. I think it's such an incredible story to tell. I mean, I'm getting shivers just sitting here, and what a beautiful story in terms of the outcome that baby Mac has at the moment. And thank you for sharing that. Andrew, I think, for the audience that's listening online to us, they might be wondering, why would someone need a bone marrow transplant? And I just wanted to ask you, because I know you're a medical doctor, and also a lecturer. So I thought I should pose that question to you. Why would it be so important to get a bone marrow transplant for a patient?
So I think that there are a number of blood cancers that you need a transplant for. So myeloma, leukemia, other forms of blood cancers. I have this condition called myelodysplastic syndrome, which essentially means that my bone marrow is just failing. It's not producing enough cells. So that is another indication. But those would be the major indications for a stem cell transplant.
Fantastic. Thanks, Andrew. And I think, just to share with people listening online, the criticalness of requiring stem cells is that they assist in when a patient has essentially damaged blood cells that they can't produce anymore. It helps the stimulation and regeneration of their blood cells, and assisting them in a curative manner. Now, I want to move on to Inga, and I'll start with this question, Inga. Why did you decide to sign up to become a stem cell registered member of society?
Okay, Sivu, so I'm just going to ask for forgiveness if I start getting teary, because I already am. It's still a very emotional journey for me, but honestly, the most incredible journey I think I've been through was being part of this whole process. And coincidentally, the reason why myself and my husband signed up in 2021 was Max Drive. So Megan's sister Amy that put all these drives together. One was held at a school in Joburg, and we were like, you know what? Absolutely, we'd been following her journey. And we just said, of course, we're organ donors, like, why not become a stem cell potential donor? And this process was very, very simple. We ended up going to where the drive was. We filled in a bit of paperwork, took just a few minutes. We did a mouth swab, very simple mouth swab, and then literally handed them the package and left. So it was about 15 minutes of our time. And had that drive not had happened, we would have also had the opportunity to do it by going onto the website. So the registries on their websites, you go on and you sign up, and you probably complete a bit of documentation there as well. And then they send you your mouth swab. So they have it delivered to you. They will then collect it again. Again, just know, nothing of my time really was taken to do this. So it was just really the sense of community trying to get this little girl, a donor. And yeah, just to know that even if it wasn't for her, one day, possibly it could be for somebody else.
No, thanks, Inga. And I think what you're highlighting for us here is that it's been really such a simple process, right? And all it is a swab inside your cheek, and essentially you can then send this off to either one of these organizations that we've got in South Africa, and they've made the process super simple for people to sign up. But I also want to hear a bit more around the process now, that you get a call and you get told that you are a match with someone needing a bone marrow transplant. What are the sort of processes that followed after that?
So it was a day I'll never forget. I had actually 3 weeks prior to the phone call, I had experienced my first miscarriage. And going through all the questions of, why and all these things, I tried to put it aside and thought, this is God's plan. We will see how it goes. And I got this phone call, and the first thing that I thought of was, I was just overwhelmed. I was just like, what do I do now? Where do we go? Where must I go? Must I go right now? What do I need to do? And then the lady from the registry, she just said, okay, the process is as follows. It's not your actual bone marrow that you need to give. That's the first and foremost thing that you need to understand. It is your stem cells that we need. And it is a fairly simple process. So what happened was I needed to go for bloods. They did a bunch of bloods to check that, the indications of me being a 100% match was correct. So that was all not to my account. I did not pay for anything with this process. Then as a donor, they just took such incredible care of me and just really wanted to make sure that I was healthy enough to do this. And there was huge emphasis on that, which I really appreciated. They wanted to do a chest X-ray and an ECG just to make sure that, from every aspect we are covered, that it won't harm me in any form of way. And, just even the simple interactions with the staff from the bone marrow registry, from SAMBS, they really just were absolutely phenomenal and very supportive. And especially the doctor that was part of this process as well, really explained every step in detail. And I'm a person that asks a lot of questions. So it was really nice to have that. And just thinking about that phone call after I had it was, if they had phoned me 3 weeks before, the answer would have been, I'm sorry, I can't help you. And just to see that whole process of, you had loss, but now there is life that is, to be given, was just a very big healing part for me. So thereafter, it was about from the time that I got the phone call to the time that we actually started the process was about 2 months. What I needed to go do was to go collect some medication. The medication was in form of injections. So these were very thin, small little needles that I actually could inject myself. All right. And this happens 5 days before the actual procedure. And it was 1 injection a day. And what these injections are doing is they are getting your bone marrow to basically pump out all of these beautiful stem cells into your blood that are now going to be collected. So again, no harm to my body at all. If anything, I would probably be benefiting from that. And then on day 5, is the day that we do the actual procedure. And the procedure was everything what I expected it to be. It was very simple. It required a day of my time. The usual harvests are 1 day. It depends on how many stem cells they need to collect. My harvest was 2 days because my patient needed a lot of stem cells. So we did the first day, and I was in a private room with 2 nurses and a doctor and a representative from the bone marrow registry, literally waiting on me, caring for me, with me every single minute. And I was lying in the bed, and basically they have in my left arm, they inserted a needle as the same process like you would if you had to donate blood. This is very similar to actually, donating blood. So needle in the one arm, drawing out the blood, and then in a machine, they would spin the blood and basically draw out the stem cells into a bag. And then that blood would then be put back into my other arm and go back into my body. So similar to donating, except you've now got, a port that's going back into your arm. So that was for about 6 or 7 hours that I was just lying there, being treated like a queen, really not doing much. And yeah, so then we collected a good amount of stem cells the very first day, which was awesome. And I felt very positive about that. I was like, yes, go body. And then on the second day, then we managed to not only get the amount of stem cells that the patient needed, but we actually got excess amount. So if the patient needed to do another transplant, they actually would be able to do that, which was really, really, really awesome to hear. So yeah, so that was basically it. The amount of pain is literally like when you're donating blood and they pop a needle into your arm. That was the feeling that I experienced. And maybe a little bit of bone pain for the 5 days leading up to that, because now your bone marrow is working really hard. So, and I mean, very mild, nothing to even really remember. They prepped me for being quite tired after the procedure. And to be very honest with you, I was not more tired than a long day at work. So it really wasn't anything. I recovered, like I did the harvest, I think, on the Thursday and the Friday, and on the weekend I was back to normal. So really, it was something that was just such a simple thing to do that is such an impactful thing for somebody. It took minimal time. There was minimal effort from my side. And just the amount of joy that that brought, you know, and just the people that work at these organizations are just so phenomenal themselves as well.
Inga, thanks so much for sharing that. I think what an incredible story, and also so courageous of you to be so giving of yourself, and also giving someone else hope for the future. And you know, you literally saved someone's life, and I think that's such a commendable thing, and a selfless thing to do. So, you know, just that beautiful listening to your story. And I think one of the things you also highlighted is just, you know, just in terms of busting some of the myths that are surrounding becoming a stem cell donor, is just how non-invasive the process is when you are donating. And really thanks for highlighting that it was a quick and simple process where you had some stem cell, you know, generation for 5 days. And then once that process was done, it was almost like donating blood, like you would on any other blood donation drive. And the process was as simple as that. And so thanks for sharing that. I want to jump back to Megan, and, you know, just for you and having gone through this process, it must have had a lot of effects across your family. And wanted to understand how this affected you personally and also your family, and, you know, how you guys coped through that.
So first, I just want to say a massive thank you to Inga for signing up for Mackenzie in the first place. It's incredibly special that we can be on the same chat together today, just to show the effect of what somebody doing something selfless like that can have on somebody's life. Because of somebody like Inga, I have a happy, healthy, almost 4-year-old today, and I wouldn't have had her had our donor not stepped up and done a buccal swab, and when he got that phone call, jumped at it and done the same thing that Inga did. So because of Inga, somebody else is also living their life, and because of other people out there that could potentially sign up as donors, you could save hundreds and hundreds of lives. Please, I implore of all of you to please sign up. And then insofar as the impact on our family was concerned, it was a harrowing journey, not least because she got diagnosed at the height of COVID. So we landed up living with her in isolation in the hospital room for going on 6 months, I think. We were not allowed to leave and nobody was allowed to come in. So it was a very, very difficult and trying time. Weirdly enough, she actually was... She was protected from COVID because at one point in time she was on a ventilator for 2 months, and that was when it was the height of the COVID outbreak in the hospital. And my husband and I actually got COVID and were sent home and had to leave her in a coma in the ICU. And the only reason she didn't get COVID was because she was on that ventilator, so she was protected from the room air. But I have some photographs of her that I would like to share just to make this a little bit more personal for you. If I can start, that's Mackenzie today. But I just want to try and figure out how to show you the pictures from before. Sorry, please bear with me. I'm an attorney, not a presenter by any stretch of the imagination.
I think while Megan is busy, I'll quickly just jump in and just mention that on my second day of my harvest was actually the day that Mighty Mac's profile posted that she had attained 100% of her donor chimerism, which is a huge thing and a huge milestone. But it again just was full circle in that point, because it was really because of her, that this was all possible.
Incredible, absolutely amazing. Thank you, Inga, again. Can everybody see my screen? Yes. This was the first day that we landed up in hospital. Can you see it?
No, we can't.
Oh, goodness me. Sorry. Let me share my screen again. There we go. This was Mackenzie on the first day that we landed up in hospital. And as you can see, we had our 4-month-old going in for surgery at 4 months old, and that was for a bone marrow biopsy. Then these are very difficult pictures to look at. This was when she was in a coma in the ICU, and this was related to chemotherapy, because when we were admitted at the beginning, they said to us, look, we have to do chemo on your child, but the chemo is likely going to kill her. And if we don't do the chemo, she definitely will die. But if we do the chemo, she might not die. So we had to make that choice. And she got incredibly, incredibly sick. And on this particular day, we had been sent home for the first time in 4 months, diagnosed with COVID. And she developed a mass in her lung. And she was too sick to take her any further to find out what the mass was, if it was more cancer or a tumor manifesting. But they knew on this day in particular that they needed to remove it because the mass was pressing on her heart, and it was intolerable. And they phoned us in the morning at home and they said, guys, we know you're really sick, but we're going to have to operate on Mackenzie. There's nothing we can do to stop it. And we thought we were going to have some time. We thought maybe they would wait for us to come back when we were ready. And they said, no, we're operating this afternoon. We're going to let you into the hospital. And we know you're COVID positive, but we're going to put you in full PPE, let you in, because if we don't give you the opportunity to say goodbye to your little girl, we won't be able to live with ourselves. So they let us into the hospital. And this was us essentially saying goodbye, because nobody, including the surgeon, expected her to survive. I remember sitting in the corner with my fingers in my ears saying I couldn't listen to what the surgeon was saying, because he was telling us how bad the prognosis was. And they wheeled her out and she went into the operation, and they managed to remove the mass and put her onto an oscillator, in fact, which was, I think, a step up from a ventilator. I think Andrew can confirm that, but it's not a good thing to be on. And they told us we had to pray that she made it through the night. And then they sent the mass out to determine what it was, and it turned out to be a fungal ball. It wasn't actually anything cancerous, and it seemed that the fungal ball was what was actually causing the infection. And slowly she started to get better. This was her for about 8 weeks of her life, on an oscillator, bumping around the whole time. And she was in the state for 2 months, and eventually was released from the ICU 2 months later and in remission. And at that stage, the search for the donor actually pushed up, because we knew she was in remission and now we could do a transplant. And on the 25th of August, we were told she had a donor, and we got sent home in September to prep her for transplant. And today we have a happy, healthy little girl at 100% chimerism, which means that her cells reflect 100% of the donor cells, which is very important, because the more donor cells she has, the least chance she has of relapsing. So that's our little Mackenzie. And yeah, thanks to some anonymous donor like Inga out there, we have her with us today.
Megan, thanks for sharing that. I think it's an incredible story of survival, of resilience from baby Mackenzie and you as a family. and also the fact that there was someone out there willing to give hope to Baby Mackenzie, and through information sessions such as these, and thanks for sharing your story. And I hope that's encouraging someone who is listening through in this webinar to take up the call to action, and sign up to be part of the stem cell registry. I'm going to take a quick break now and ask Kim just if there are any questions in the Q&A. I forgot to say in the beginning that you can post your questions in the Q&A, and in the meantime, the team will be answering, but also there might be some questions that Kim would be posing to the panel.
Thanks, Sivu. So I think the one big question that has come through a few times is how painful is it? And I think Inga has given us a lot of insight there. So just have a look at the chat. And if you need more information, you can obviously reach out unless you want to recover it. And I think the second one that's coming out is people that have medical conditions, or if they're underweight, or if there's other underlying issues. There's quite a few questions around that, Sivu. So maybe you can give some steer on that, or we can put it to the panel.
All right. I mean, I'll give some steer. So both information can be found on the South African Bone Marrow Registry, and also on the DKMS website. These are the two organizations, and they do give some clarity around, who are the eligible people that can become donors, and also the different age ranges. So, for example, with with the SA BMR, there's a certain age between the ages of 16 and I believe 45. And also then with DKMS Africa between 17 and 55, that they allow people to become blood stem cell donors, and also individuals who are considered healthy, because they also don't want to put you as the person donating at risk of affecting your health. And I think, as Inga mentioned, it can be a full day process where you are feeling tired post that donation process. I don't know if the panel has more to add on that.
Yeah.
All right, fantastic. I think I'll round up the last couple of questions, and I'll start with you, Andrew. And in terms of what message do you have for people listening in on the call that you'd like to leave them with, just around the process of becoming a blood stem cell donor, and also from your experience as a person requiring a stem cell donation?
So I guess the couple of messages. One is that stem cells come from living, breathing people. They can't be manufactured. And so we need people to sign up. I need a stem cell transplant. Otherwise, I'm likely to be dead by Christmas, maybe. So that's a bit of a shock. And so really appealing for me, but also for others who also need stem cell transplants. The second message really is to say it is a very, very easy process. It involves just a buccal swab, a cheek swab, and then you get onto the registry. They will look and see whether they look at things on your white cells called HLA, and that they see whether or not you're a match. And then the process of donation is actually, for the majority of people, very, very straightforward. I think Inga has explained it very clearly. It's some stimulation of the stem cells and then harvesting of them, which is like a blood transfusion. For certain conditions, and I think Megan can talk to this, there is a need for an aspiration from the bone marrow. But I think for the majority of people, it is a similar to blood transfusion, or giving blood, rather than a bone marrow aspirate. Yeah, and really just encouraging. And I think it also points for me the power of social media, that you tell a story and you tell your friends and tell a friend and tell a friend, and that we can in fact recruit lots of people. So I'm challenging UKZN, where I work, to find 1,000 new donors. I'm speaking at a family medicine conference on Saturday, and I'm trying to encourage colleagues who work at UCT and UP and Stellenbosch, kind of, guys, get your act together, encourage 1,000 students that you have contact with. I would like to see the family medicine fraternity maybe contributing 10,000 new donors. That would be really exciting. And so really, to each one of you on this call, you know, sign up. It's easy. Get your friends and families and colleagues. People have gone out of their way to sign up, and that's fantastic. And I'm sure that was Megan's experience as well with Mighty Mac. The friends told friends, and then kind of like, let's go do it. This is really easy. And it was amazing to hear Inga's story, that she heard through Mighty Mac, and then she was a match, and she was able to make a life-saving difference to somebody.
Thanks, Andrew. I'll go to Inga next, and just your message of encouragement to people that can do exactly what you did.
Guys, there's nothing greater. And the crazy thing is, everyone is always like, oh, what you did is such an amazing thing. And I'm like, it's what the doctors did. And like the science behind this, like I just laid there. Do you know what I mean? I gave a little bit of my time. It really is just, yeah, there's nothing to lose in this process. I have friends and family that have been on the registries for over 10 years and they've, never had a phone call. But the big key thing here is we need different racial groups to sign up. We need the pool to become bigger so that percentage, if you ever had to be in the position, would be a lot higher in your favor. We need to try find Andrew a donor. We need to find so many other people, help. And it's something that our bodies can generate. I just think it's a beautiful thing to do. It's a very easy thing to do. And I really just want to encourage you that the level of pain, it's negligible. Really, it's really nothing to consider. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Inga. I think you mentioned something very important, and I had mentioned this in the beginning of the webinar as well, that it's so critical to get diversity, within the bone marrow registry, the stem cell registry rather, in order to give everyone a chance and not have individuals or groups that would be disproportionately affected by the lack of representation. And so thanks for resharing that. Megan, the reason I left you for last is because it's not the first time I've heard your story, and the story of baby Mackenzie. And I think, for the people that are familiar with you, but it's such an incredible story. And the fact that you keep coming back to share the story with us and many other people is such an encouraging thing. And I just wanted to give you, the last say, just in terms of encouraging people that that want to sign up, and the rest of our discovery group that is on the call. And what message do you have for them?
Well, first off, I'll keep coming back and talking as many times as anyone wants me to talk, because the impact that this has had on my life and DKMS and SABMR and the donors out there is something that I can't even put into words. And Discovery too, obviously you guys, we have Discovery members, and Discovery facilitated the process. So without them, it wouldn't have been possible. So anything you guys want from me, you've got your pound of flesh. Anything I can do, I really am there for it. But I would really like to talk to the ethnic representation on the donor base, because we lived in an oncology ward for 8 months of our lives. And in those 8 months, we unfortunately saw a lot of Black, colored, and Indian children not receive donors and unfortunately pass away. The reality of it is that if you are Caucasian, you are far more likely to get a donor at this point in time, because it's based on your heritage, and Europeans are much more representative on the database than people of African descent. So if we can get the message out there that we really need people of color to sign up, please, please, please do so. It's so easy, and you could change someone's life. You could save a life. It's the easiest thing to do. It's like donating blood. Please sign up.
Yeah, thanks so much, Megan. And I think just to end off, we are ending off a bit early, but I think it was such an incredible panel. And thanks to each and every single person on the panel for having joined us and sharing, your story so that you can encourage others to do the same. And, as a country, as a people, we are united by hope, and hopefully we can get more people signing up and sharing this information. And just to the people on this webinar that are watching and listening, thank you so much for your time. I think it's incredible that you are also, sharing your time with us to have a listen, so you can share this information with the rest of not just your colleagues, but also your family members, your friends. And the more people we can get this information to, the better. And just as a last call to action, the process to sign up has been made super, super simple. From a business perspective, we'll share additional information on how you can sign up. And it's really as simple as a cheek swab, and sharing that onto the registry, and hopefully you get a call, and you can also say that you helped save a life, like literally. But yeah, thank you so much. And don't forget, the websites are, you can go to the South African Bone Marrow Registry, or you can go to DKMS Africa to get more information. But I think I'll close it off there. And more than happy to always take questions even outside of the session and connect everyone to the right people. And also thanks to the team that has also been behind organizing this webinar. It is not just us sitting on this call, but everyone else behind the scenes that have, played a huge role in organizing this session. And yeah, thanks everyone.
Thanks very much.